Hey beautiful people, what is up? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another video. Okay, you guys already see different background, and that's because I'm sitting in the living room, on the floor, because this is kind of like, I was gonna say an emergency video, but that is unnecessarily dramatic. It is like a very last minute video that I just thought about because today is actually the first day of the Sephora VIB sale. Now when it comes to the Sephora VIB sale, do I love it? Not necessarily. And I've said this before in previous videos where I've talked about the sale. This is not the best sale to exist because on the top end, the maximum discount you could get from this sale is 20% off. That being said, after, it's been some years and I've learned a couple of things, right? So even though this is not, I would say, the best sale overall, this still is a pretty decent opportunity for folks to get products at a relatively nice discount, especially if you are Rouge. So I did decide, again, hella last minute, that I would come on here and give you guys my recommendations for the Sephora VIB sale. Now, I want to preface this by saying that I do still think that you should spend some time trying to figure out which brands specifically offer better sales on their own websites, whether that be throughout the year or for the upcoming Black Friday. That being said, y'all know Black Friday hasn't been Black Fridaying the way it should be. So something to be mindful of. But I recognize that not everyone lives within the US, obviously. So when it comes to purchasing products, like US products, that could be a problem, especially now with all the tariffs and y'all know the whole jizz. And if you are from like Canada, I know this is a really particularly good sale for you. If you're looking at multiple products from multiple brands, there's also, if you're only buying one thing, shipping costs. So if you wanted to get a couple of different things from a couple of different brands, this actually might be a better option. All right, it's been 2 minutes. I don't want this video to be forever long, so I want to go ahead and dive right in. So what I plan on doing is telling you guys what my recommendations are in terms of the products that I've used and I've tried, and then kind of wrapping things up with my wish list, which is very short. Honestly, I think it's like 3 items. That's it. Mainly because I don't need a ton of stuff. I actually need to do another declutter. All right, so just quick details about the Sephora VIB sale. If you don't know, and if you do know, skip past this. I'll include some timestamps. The Sephora VIB sale is a sale that Sephora does twice a year. One in the spring, one in the fall. This is their fall sale. Essentially, everything on the website is at 3 different discounts depending on the tier that you are at. If you are a Beauty Insider, which is the base tier, you're going to get 10% off of anything you purchase. If you are to VIB, you're going to get 15% off. If you are Rouge, you'll get 20% off. And for all members, regardless of tier, you will get 30% off the Sephora Collection line, which is Sephora's own sort of in-house line. So the other thing to note is that with the VIB sale, when the different tiers are able to shop, looks differently. So starting today, the Rouge members, so that top tier, those folks can shop first. Then it goes to VIB, then the Beauty Insider. And that's pretty much all the details that you need to know. So let's go ahead and jump into my recommendations. Here are the products that I think you should consider picking up if you are in the market for products. Don't go shopping if you don't need to shop, okay? Just saying. And I'm probably going to have to clip this mic somewhere because what I did is I put all of the products into this little basket. So I'm just going to kind of like dig in, grab, see what we come out with. Okay, so the first 2 products that I actually have here are from Milk Cosmetics. Now, Milk Cosmetics is not a brand that I particularly check for, but honestly, about a year or so ago, they released this mattifying line, which turned out to be pretty great. Now, for context, I am someone with a medium deep complexion, and I tend to lean pretty golden. In addition to that, I have acne-prone skin, and I am on the oilier side of things. So when it comes to products, I am typically looking for things that are oil controlling, mattifying. I tend to stay very far away from anything that says dewy, glowy, or any of those synonyms that comes along with that, because on my complexion / skin tone, skin type, it just looks greasy. And I don't like looking like a good fry bake on my face. Let me move my lovely pillow out of frame. Okay. So Milk released their mattifying line, and I've actually been really enjoying this. I've talked about these 2 products before because these are the products that I actually travel with when I travel for work. And if you've been watching the last couple of videos that I've posted, then you know that fall is my like busy season for work, so I've been traveling for the last 2-ish months pretty consistently back to back, and this is all I pack with me because it keeps my face matte all day. And let me just tell you what it is. So first and foremost, it's the Pore Eclipse Mattifying Primer. Now this baby is so good at keeping my face matte all day. And I say that as someone who's tested this for very, very long times. When I travel for work, it's not a typical 9 to 5 day. Typically, I am up by like 6 because the work day, and I mean like actual work day, starts at like 7. Whether that's I'm at a conference or whatever it is, it starts at 7. So I'm up at 6 because I need to be ready and like in a specific spot by 7 o'clock in the morning. And then from that, you have a full day of conferencing, networking, blah, blah, blah. But then there's that afternoon piece where you're either doing more networking or having like dinner with colleagues, whatever it is. So I'm typically not back in my room until like 7:30, 9 o'clock, like if we're being honest. So I am wearing my full face from like 7 to 9. Very, very long days. And when I tell you this keeps you matte, it's locks everything in place. This is probably one of the best primers that I've used. If you're looking for another alternative, I would recommend the Danessa Myricks Blurring Balm Powder. The only reason I'm not saying that you should pick that up at the Sephora sale is because you could probably get that on during Danessa's Black Friday sale for probably a little bit cheaper. I think her Black Friday sale is typically up to 30% off. So you can either buy it here, you can buy it there. Just something to be mindful of. Now, the complementary piece to the mattifying primer is actually the setting spray. This is the travel size of the spray. I do have this in the larger size as well. And this is really, really good at keeping this, everything matte and locked in. My biggest issue with this spray is the sprayer itself. It's not the contents. It's not what's in here. This sprayer gets clogged every single time. So every time before I use this, I actually have to kind of like go in and scrape off the top of it to make sure that it sprays, and then I do like a test spray to make sure that it's unclogged before I spray it on my face, because I've had this happen before where I didn't test it to see if it was unclogged, and instead of getting like a nice fine mist over the face, it was like one straight shot to the face, which if you know is horrible. So the actual spray on this sucks, is garbage, but the product in here is amazing. So if it's something that would bother you, this is also, you could screw this off and pour it into whatever sprayer bottle you have or like. I do have this in a full size too, because this is one that is really, really worth it. Now, I do believe that I found it at TJ Maxx stores. So if you want to check your TJ Maxx stores for milk, I have seen these products there as well. But if you know TJ Maxx, Marshalls, it's not consistent. You're not guaranteed to find them there. So I would recommend picking it up during the sale. Since we're on the topic of setting sprays, I do want to mention one other setting spray that I actually don't have in my collection right now, and that's just because I've used it up and I didn't want to purchase another one because I have other setting sprays I need to go through. And that is, I'm going to insert here, the Charlotte Tilbury setting spray. Now, I just raved about the milk setting spray, but I have to acknowledge that when it comes to mattifying setting sprays, that one is my holy grail. That is the one that I come back to and recommend the most. So if you are very oily and you need something to keep you locked in, that would probably be my first go-to. Then the milk one, both of them work well. Either or is fine, but I am always toggling back and forth between the two of those. Okay, next up is another product that I've raved about. And this is again for the oily skin gals. This is the Lancome Teint Idole Foundation. Now, I wear the shade 455 Warm. Again, yellow golden undertone, so I lean warm. This is the best foundation that I've ever worn. I think both in terms of shade match and like really, really looking flawless and skin-like. It's actually what I'm wearing right now. And also in terms of longevity and mattifying properties. One of the things that I will say about this is that it does not make you look flat and dry, because sometimes when it comes to mattifying foundations, it can look a little flat, it can look a little dry, which can lead to you looking cakey. This, in my opinion, does not give you that effect. It looks, in my opinion, very skin-like, very natural, just not that like dewy mess. And this is the one foundation that I've had people stop me to ask me, what base am I wearing? And it's always this. No one else has ever stopped me when I wear any other foundation. And I've been using this consistently. This has been the only foundation I've been using for the past 2 months because, again, I've been traveling a ton for work, and this is one that I know is going to keep me locked in all day without issues. So if you're looking for a good foundation and you are someone that tends to lean more oily, or you need something that's a little bit more mattifying, I would 100% recommend the Lancome foundation. I recommended it during the Ulta sale. I actually did pick up a backup of that already because during the Ulta 21 Days of Beauty sale, it was 50% off, y'all. 50% off. And I believe this retails for about $54, so it's not on the cheap side, but it's 100% worth it. And I only have about 10 products for you guys, so not a ton. Okay, so we have to talk about the Hourglass holiday palettes. Now, if you know, you know, and I know a lot of people have recommended these before, and that's because they're just that good, you guys. I don't even know what to say about it. I have had and have been collecting these products, these face palettes, for 3, maybe 4 years, and they are probably some of my most used products in my collection overall, like point blank period. These are palettes that I reach for all the time for a couple of reasons. One, the Hourglass face powders are just like magic. I don't know what else to say. The formulation of their powders are so good. I don't think I've found a brand that has replicated how lightweight they are, how blurring they are, how beautiful they lay on the skin. So absolutely perfection. And when you look at the cost of one single, because they sell all these as singles, right? They sell the powders as singles. If you look at the price of a single, it is more economical for you to buy the face palette because you're getting more, even though it's smaller sizes, you're getting more products or variety in there, right? So I always recommend these. These are also perfect for travel. Now, all the palettes does come with a mix of a finishing powder, a bronzer, some blushes, and a strobe light, which is what they call their highlighters. So I actually picked up both of my palettes from the Hourglass website. Did I? No, I picked up the Fox palette from the Hourglass website and the Swan. Am I pronouncing that right? Swan? I don't know why it sounds so weird. I picked up the Swan palette during the Sephora Friends and Family sale for 20% off. So the Fox palette is their deep version this year. So I know. When it comes to depth, Hourglass is not the best. But what I will say is that these powders are extremely versatile. So if you absolutely need a bronzer in your face palette, maybe this is not going to be for you, but if you are willing to work with what they give you, you can get some use out of this. Like, their bronzers in these palettes don't typically work for me as bronzers, but I'm able to use them either as finishing powders or under eye, sort of like highlighting powders. So I make them work for me in the way that they can. And I think that's the good thing about these palettes is that you don't have to use them the way they're like described. So if it's described as a bronzer and it's too dark for you, or it's too light for you, I should say, probably if you're my complexion, use it as a finishing powder. Use it as an under eye powder to brighten. You know, find different ways to use it. I have been able to use every single powder in all of my palettes because I make it work for me in the way that I can. So this is the dark one. It's not exactly like giving the most depth, but the blushes are beautiful. This blush here, which is that peach, what's it called? Canon Heat. It's a very beautiful peach blush. That has been my go-to. I've actually put a pretty sizable dent in it compared to the other products in this palette. And I do still plan to do a full video on these. So that's the Fox, which is the deepest one. And then the second one that I have is actually the Swan. And this was designed for more medium complexions. And this one I picked up specifically for the blushes in here. Because the blushes I felt like were extremely vibrant and rich and would work on my complexion. And so far they have. Like, they actually do work for my complexion. Again, really light powders in here. Is that even considered a finishing powder? Yeah, the finishing powder Dim Light is an under eye brightening powder for me, as well as the bronzer in Natural Bronze is a finishing powder all over the face. So even though like the finishing powders and the bronzer in here is not something that I could use as they're intended to be used, I can still use them. So I would 100% recommend these palettes. I think that they're such amazing quality. They're perfect for someone who travels a lot and wants everything in one space. And you could also like use this as eyeshadow. I've done a video using my palettes from last year as eyeshadow because the strobe light is really beautiful as a like shimmer on the eyes, and then you can go in with the bronzer and blend out the edges. You can create a full face with these palettes. Just saying. Now, I do want to include like a honorable mention when it comes to the Hourglass palettes, because while the holiday releases, which are limited edition, may not be the best for darker complexions when it comes to like getting an actual bronzer that's going to work, I have to like highlight that they do actually have a bronzing palette for darker complexions. Is it the deepest? No. Could they go deeper? Yes, absolutely. But I still want to make sure that I point out that there is a deep palette that does exist. And this is the Ambient Lighting Palette in Volume 3. So really beautiful. And this one I actually can use the bronzer shade as a bronzer and have used it as a bronzer. I've also used the bronzer shade as a like eyeshadow to buff out the edges of shimmer shades that I have when I'm doing a one and done look. And I'm traveling particularly, I will go in with the shimmer shade on the lids and then go in with the bronzer in this palette and then buff out the edges. That's been my go-to. The biggest issue for me with this palette, and it's not even really an issue, is that the strobe light in this palette, because it was designed for darker complexions, they did really mean deep dark complexions. And I'm a medium deep complexion, so the strobe light / highlighter is too dark for me to use as a highlighter, but I can use it as an eyeshadow. So again, make it work for however you need to make it work for you. So definitely want to point this out as an honorable mention. Okay, so now let's move into what I think is probably the most exciting category. Well, y'all know, it's the category that I love the most, and that's eyeshadow. So let's talk about eyeshadow. And this is going to just very clearly reflect the space that I've been in when it comes to eyeshadow, which is basic, brown, and simple. So let's start with one that I think encompasses all of that. And I do have a full review of this. This is the Natasha Denona Dramatic Palette. Now, this is a part of Natasha's most recent release. She actually released 2 palettes at the same time, this Dramatic palette, as well as another one that I'm blanking on the name of, which is for light to like say medium complexions. This one, Natasha designed and said so specifically that she designed this for darker, deeper complexions. And this I think is just a good staple to have in your collection. It is a neutral palette that sort of covers the spectrum of neutral. So it has warm tones, cooler tones, peach tones, red tones. So it kind of like runs the gamut, and all of these shades here are designed for darker complexions. So what lighter folks would consider deepening shades and we consider transition shades, we have true transition shades, and there are no real throwaway shades in this palette. All of these shades have a purpose, so when you spend your money on it, you know you're going to be able to use every single shade in this palette. I think that this is just like one of the best releases that she's put out in a very, very long time. Now, she does also have a ton of other palettes that are in that neutral vein, but if you just want a good, solid, staple, everyday palette, I think that this is a good one. Now, Natasha Denona does have a pretty decent Black Friday sale from what I can recall, but I do believe in recent years, her newest releases have only been about 10, maybe 15% off. So there is a potential to get this for 20% off, which I think makes it worth it to pick it up in this sale, because I'm not sure how large this will be discounted during her Black Friday sale. So something to point out. And I'll make sure and link my review of this palette, because you can see the swatches and you can see like my full thoughts on it. And I really enjoyed the palette, y'all. Okay, now let's going from brown basic to like simply basic. Danessa! I'm channeling my best Cara here. And I'm actually going to recommend, and I wasn't sure if I was going to do this, but I'm wearing one of these now. But anyways, I'm talking about the Danessa Myricks Color Fix Sticks. Now, Danessa Myricks Color Fix is like iconic. It's huge for her brand, but they've always been in this liquid format that to me maybe didn't seem the most user-friendly. So these sticks came out and I was really excited about them, because when I saw it, I was like, yes, that is something that I can travel with easily. And again, I'll say it one more time. I've been traveling for the past 2 months, so I needed something that I can throw in a makeup bag and you know, travel really easily with it. So I've had these two, and I believe this is number 3 and number 6 for a little over a month. Yeah, almost 2 months now. And these are really nice. So in terms of what you're getting with each product, it comes in like a pencil format, and it's completely detachable. So there's a magnet in the middle separating the two. So you actually don't need to take the full pencil with you, or you could detach them and you get 2 shorter products. Now, with the pencil, you get 1 metallic shade and 1 foil shade. And you can use it by itself. You can put one on top of the other. Like, very, very nice. This is a product that I think does have a learning curve though. Well, I think that this is beautiful and it's really nice and easy, because if you know, I've been really into the one and done looks pretty consistently. So this is something that appealed to me because I could just take one look, kind of like spread it all over the eye, and then go in with my bronzer from the Hourglass palette and blend it out. What I will say is something to keep in mind when it comes to this product. It dries almost immediately once applied to the lids. The amount of time you have between application and like drying to blend out is almost non-existent. So that's one of the issues that I have with it. And to that point, I find that if you want to blend, it's using your fingers is honestly more effective than anything else. So this is a product that you have to like apply and immediately start blending. Otherwise, once it's there, it's stuck, it's put, it's not going nowhere. And I learned that the hard way. So I just want to let you guys know. A cool thing about this product though is that I don't know how, but this has such a cooling sensation when applied to the lids. Like, it actually feels kind of cold. And I don't know how, I don't know why, but it's actually kind of cool. It's very, very nice. So, like I said, I have shade 6 and shade 3 in these duos. I wouldn't recommend getting both of them. They're both very similar. One I would say is a little bit warmer. One is a little bit more taupey. But at the end of the day, they both lean very neutral. And I chose to pick those neutral shades because I bought them to travel with me when I was going to work events, and I needed it to be neutral and basic. I'm actually wearing, I believe I'm wearing 6 right now. Hold on, let me double check. Yeah, I'm wearing number 6 now, so let me just, I'm gonna come closer so you guys can see it. How beautiful is that sparkle? Okay, y'all just got real up close and personal with me. All right, now the last eyeshadow product that I want to mention is also a duo, and this is one that I feel like I've not necessarily spoken highly of, but honestly, so good. And that is the Patrick Ta duos. I was really annoyed when these first released because these retail for $42 and you get 2 shades. 2 shades for $42 sounds crazy to me. It still does. I'm not even gonna hold y'all. I still think it sounds crazy. But I can't say it's a bad product, you guys. Now, when Patrick talks about these products, right, he makes it very clear that these are shadows that are 100% pearl. There's no fillers, there's no extras, which is what brings up the price of these products. I'm not going to get into, like, if it is, if it isn't, if it's worth it. I will say that these are beautiful on the eyes. That I have gotten so much way out of these that I have almost hit pan in one of these. That's how much I use these products. And that's how much I think that they're good. Okay, so I'm sure you guys have seen this. This is one of the duos. Actually, let me turn off this light so you guys can see this better. There you go. So this is still at the club. And this is the one that I think I've used probably the most. It definitely leans a little bit more cool tone, a little bit more taupey. And the bottom shade in this is, I would say, more of like a standard shimmer. The top shade is like a more toppery shade. So the bottom shade has a lot more base and pigment to it. So that's really good for like putting in the edges and blending it out. And then the top shade, because it's so much of a topper, you just kind of like plop it all over the lid and you get really nice sparkle. And then the other shade that I have is Do You Know Who I Am? And this is the gold. And I've actually, and you can probably kind of see it a little bit here, I'm about to hit pan on this. This is such a beautiful gold shade. Like I've worn this a lot to like concerts and concert type events. Okay, let me put the light back on. So I've worn it to a lot of concert and concert type events, and I think it's just really, really beautiful sparkle. I'm not super familiar with Patrick Tar's sales, so I can't say if you would be able to get this at a high price. I think at best he may do like 20% off, but I haven't seen this cheaper at any other point. So if you were interested in picking up these duos, I think this is probably the best opportunity to get it at a pretty decent discount. Okay, let's keep going. So the next thing that I want to recommend is actually a Pat McGrath product. And typically, I don't recommend shopping Pat McGrath during the Sephora VIB sale because Pat McGrath is known for having pretty good sales. Like Pat McGrath, I've seen her go all the way up to like, I think the highest was like 40%, maybe 35%, which is a pretty sizable chunk considering how expensive her products are. The only reason I'm recommending this during the Sephora VIB sale is because with Pat's large sales where you get all that huge chunk off, typically you have to hit a specific spend. If you already have a huge Pat McGrath collection, you're not going to hit that spend because typically it takes buying like a mothership to get to the point where you get 30% or 35% off. If you're only there for like one smaller thing, you're probably only going to get the 20 to maybe 25% off. So something to keep in mind. Now, this is a product that I have been using and loving, and I want to pick up more of. So I don't think I'll buy it during the sale, but maybe at some point. Anyways, it's the Pat McGrath Intensifies Eyes Long Wear Primer. So this is her eyeshadow primer, her eyeshadow base. I love this. When it comes to eyeshadow bases, I feel like I have a hard time finding ones that work for me. I don't have oily lids, and I find that a lot of times the primers that I see on the market have a very distinct, almost white cast, or like a beige tone on the eyes. As someone with a darker complexion, to me that looks crazy. I I just want something to prime the lids without changing the color of my lids. Does that make sense? Like I want to put the shadow on top of it. Now, I used to prime my lids with concealer, but ever since I've started using this, I haven't used concealer since. So that's how much I absolutely love this. And I think that it provides the most beautiful base for eyeshadow without changing the color of my lids. And I've seen every single shadow that I use, whether it be liquid, powder, regardless of if it's indie, luxury, mainstream, seems to sit perfectly well over this base without an issue. So I definitely 100% recommend it. Okay, and then the last product that I want to recommend from like this sort of generic category section is the Tom Ford Traceless Soft Matte Concealer. I hate how much I like this because this concealer retails for $60, you guys. It is so stupid. Stupid expensive. But this is probably the best concealer that I've ever used. Big caveat to this. If you have a cosmetics company store, I 100% recommend that you check there first before you buy this from the Sephora VIB sale. And that's because the CCO offers 30% off of Tom Ford products. Now at my CCO, for some reason this was on clearance, so I got it for 75% off. If that works for you, even better. I know not all stores sell the Tom Ford products, so just something to be mindful of. I love this concealer because it, for me, has like no creasing in the under eyes. And it has such a beautiful texture that it is a concealer that I can just spot conceal with. Now, I have hypopigmentation under my eyes. So if I want to do like a no makeup kind of day, like literally a no makeup, no foundation kind of day, I like to go in with this concealer to even out that very light area under my eyes so it looks less intense. Also to go over any sort of acne scars that I have. So this is what I use to spot conceal. This is actually in the shade, did I say Terra, which is very close to my skin tone. Obviously, you can go lighter. I personally don't like very bright under eyes. My eyes already have the hypopigmentation. But just sort of the texture of this works perfectly well with my skin. Okay, so One last category, because we talked about all of these sort of like broad, Sephora recommendations. And I want to, well, I have to talk about the Sephora collection, because like I said at the top of the video, the Sephora collection, which is Sephora's own brand of products, are going to be 30% off regardless of what tier you are, whether you're a beauty insider or whether you're a rouge. People sleep on Sephora collection, and I'm here to tell y'all, don't sleep on Sephora collection for a couple reasons, right? They are luxury quality products. They are made in the same places that all of these luxury brands are made. Like, you'd be surprised to find out that their products are made in France, Italy, Germany, like some of the top places that you see a lot of these other luxury brands being made. And the quality is top tier. Now, the packaging, not great, which is honestly why I think the price is so much lower, because so much of makeup pricing is in the packaging, and I think Sephora has sacrificed the packaging, to give you good quality products at a cheaper price, which I'm all for. Who cares about the packaging, you know what I mean? So I have a couple of products that I want to recommend. First and foremost, it's the Micro Smooth Powder. This is a powder foundation technically, but this is what I use to set my foundation. If you want, you could go in pretty heavy with this, and you can actually get like some color to your skin. So sometimes when I'm doing like a no makeup kind of look, I would just go in with this powder as well. I wouldn't even say evens things out, but it mattifies my skin so I don't look as shiny. Absolutely love this. I know this was made in Italy, like really, really good powder to set the face. And I've been through and used so many of it. And it's one that I consistently repurchase. And then the second thing that I want to recommend are their eyeliners. I really like their eyeliners. So I want to point out two. So the first is this liquid eyeliner. Just a basic black liner. It's a brush tip. I'm wearing it right now. It's really good. It does what it does. But the one that I actually have been repurchasing the most is the brown liner. Now this is I believe this is a felt tip. No, it's a brush tip. Oh, it's a brush tip waterproof liquid liner in the brown shade. And what I like about this brown is that it's not as dark or as stark as black liner. So sometimes when I want to do something that feels a little bit more natural, I like to go in with a brown liner. And this is one that I've been repurchasing back to back to back consistently. During every Sephora VIP sale, I will purchase one or two of those liners because I think that they work so well. And I absolutely that's how I got into using brown liners. So that's all I would recommend from the Sephora. Actually, the Sephora collection brushes are pretty good too. Do I prefer natural hair brushes? Yes, absolutely. But if you are someone that likes synthetic brushes, theirs are actually pretty good quality. So that I'm going to end there in terms of my Sephora recommendations. What I do want to tell you guys is what's on my wish list and what I have in my cart, which is really small. So first and foremost, I have been thinking about the Danessa Myricks Lightwork Volume 7 palette. I have a couple of the Lightwork palettes from previous years, but I did not pick up the one last year where she started doing this new system packaging-wise. Now, this is pretty expensive. It's $128. I know, like I said, Danessa has a pretty good Black Friday sale, but I know last year it wasn't included in her Black Friday sale. So I don't think it's going to be included this year. So because I don't think I'll be able to find it at a higher discount during the sale on her website, I think I'm going to have to pick it up at Sephora. 20% off, not that bad. You know what I mean? Then I also plan on picking up 2 more of those Patrick Ta duos. Again, I feel like a big hypocrite because I complained about them, y'all. I complained. But I did say that I loved it. I'm not gonna lie. I complained about it, and honestly, I think that it's, just considering how much use I've gotten out of the 2 that I have, I do feel like it's worth it for me to pick 2 more up because I think I will get even, like, equal amounts of use out of those as well. And the last thing on my list is I actually am interested in picking up the Fenty Beauty glossy holiday set. So there are 3 glosses in there. I think I'm going to pick up one for myself and one for my mom. My mom has been stealing my my older sister's Fenty glosses, which I think I bought her those glosses, but my mom absolutely loves it, and because she likes it, I think I'm going to get her one so that she has her own. And the Fenty glosses are actually amazeballs, and glosses are something that I prefer to wear over lipsticks, so I think I'm going to pick that up. All right, so that is it. That's it for this video, and I think I finished this in great time. I'm going to try to go edit this now so I can get it up today, because it is the Sephora VIB sale today, and I'm really hoping that this is helpful for you guys as you think about shopping. I want to like end by saying there will always be another sale. I know that sometimes these videos all kind of come out at the same time, and it's a lot of recommendations, and you need this and you should buy this, and it can feel like pretty pressuring. Please don't feel that way. There will always be another sale. This is the least of anybody's needs or necessities, and there's so much more that's going on. But if you are planning to pick things up, I hope this is helpful. If you have questions about products that you're interested in picking up but I didn't mention in this recommendations video, put them down in the chat. I will do my best to answer them if I have them, and if I've used them, and if I have any experience with them in any way whatsoever. So let me know if you have any questions in the description box, in the comments below, and also let me know what you guys are planning to pick up. I'm always very curious to see what's on other folks' wish list. All right, guys, the sun is setting. The day is over. Thank you all so much for watching. I appreciate you all so much more than you know, and I'll catch you in my next one. Bye, guys.